This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by nope.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the nope and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This question is from a listener named Janelle. And Janelle says, I heard Mel Robbins say motivation is garbage and was wondering what your thoughts are on motivation.
I love the question, and it makes me reflect a little bit, and I'll save that because it will turn into a whole rant, I feel like.
Doc Dill rant coming at you in a few minutes.
So let's start with like motivation is garbage and like why, where does that come from? Why does it come? It honestly sounds like a Goggins statement. Like motivation is garbage. And like we got to take a step back and understand what motivation is before we call it garbage. And I agree, like people, oh, you're a motivational speaker. Like, no, I talk on discipline, but like motivation has to be part of it. And that's kind of where I've changed my perspective on this statement before. I think if you asked me before, I would have been very like, yeah,
motivation is trash.
Motivation is garbage. But what is motivation? Well, motivation allows interest and capacity for a behavior. Discipline allows the behavior to be formed. Because what people will say is motivation is garbage because it's short-lived and you have to keep getting motivated. Where if you stay disciplined, you actually form the habit and actually achieve the behavior over and over again. And when motivation runs out, discipline is there to serve you, right? So in that conversation somewhere, it started coming up that like motivation is garbage in the sense of like motivation is pointless. Like it's not. Motivation drives interest and capacity for a behavior. Discipline allows that behavior to be formed. I don't think we ever have a situation in which there's not motivation, right? It's just if they're not interested in the same thing as you, their motivation is to get out of that conversation or to not do that work. And then the capacity, like, why do we need to keep getting remotivated? Well, you're losing your capacity. You're losing motivation, which is, again, the capacity for you to be interested in that behavior. So if you have to keep doing that and you have to keep remotivating yourself over and over again, then like maybe you're doing the wrong thing. Like maybe motivation isn't garbage. Maybe the thing that you're doing isn't the thing that you want to be doing or the thing that you're called to be doing.
Yeah.
So to hype yourself up, you have to listen to motivational videos and speeches and things just to get you up and going because the place that you're going, you don't want to be there anyway. Right. But then there's the discipline of continuing to show up, but there's also the motivation that if you don't go there and it's a job, for example, then you're going to get fired. And if you get fired, then you don't have the finances, and if you don't have the finances, then it's this cascade of things. So I think it's really hard to tease out motivation and discipline. Like, is there really a situation in which there is no motivation and it's only discipline? Or is there always some level of motivation that then allows that behavior to be formed, which is happening through discipline? So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, I don't know a question. I think I didn't expect that answer, which I'm excited to hear what your rant is going to be. Because I know in the past we've talked about like motivation versus discipline.
Yeah.
But it really isn't this like versus thing. They really complement each other. And I think maybe what Mel Robbins was getting at in regards to motivation is garbage is that like you can't rely on motivation all the time.
Right.
Which is true. You cannot rely on motivation all the time. Motivation is not everything.
Yeah.
But I do think it's something that shouldn't be ignored because it can be used for good as well.
Yeah, like there'll be days that you're not motivated to train, but you stay disciplined in it, which then helps to improve your motivation to stay disciplined in it because you're going to achieve the outcome of it, right? So like motivation is very incentivized, where discipline is that you're doing it because you know that you should be doing it. And discipline will serve you when motivation is fading, not when it's gone, but when it's fading. But if we can use the motivation to help the discipline, like these things can really serve each other very well
Yeah.
and create a positive feedback loop
Hmm.
of I'm motivated to partake in that behavior and I have good capacity for that behavior because I'm motivated to do that and I'm disciplined in doing that. So now I have the interest, but now I have the action.
Hmm.
And the interest serves the action, we get this beautiful positive feedback loop of performance.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think a lot of people will say like motivation is garbage or it's not worth it because it's going to fail you. You need discipline. You got to form the habits, and that's what discipline is, and motivation isn't going to get you there. Like, no, I agree. Like motivation on its own is not going to get you there. Because if you
Hmm.
have interest and capacity, but you don't do the thing,
Right.
that's false hope.
Yeah.
But if you have interest and capacity to do the thing, and then you continuously do the thing, and you do the thing when you feel like you're not maybe interested or have the capacity to do it, like you're still getting that feedback loop to support it to some level.
Yeah. I almost think of like I almost think of like teenagers,
Mm.
and teenagers might hear this and be like, motivation isn't garbage, discipline's garbage. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there are some people out there that might think that discipline is garbage, but I do think that they're both complementary, and the
yeah,
positive feedback loop is essential for quality life.
exactly. And they're needed.
Yeah.
So I've really switched this from motivation versus discipline to what you said, motivation and discipline.
Hmm.
And for coaches listening, you might think that you have a unmotivated athlete. And I challenge you to say, no, they're motivated to do the thing that to do the thing that they want to do, not the thing that you want them to do.
Right.
So they're not unmotivated. They're just not aligned with your interests
Yeah.
or the behavior that you want exhibited. They're interested in what they want, and whether one is right or one is wrong, that's up for discussion and debate. But to coach, you have to figure out, well, they're motivated, but
Hmm.
what are they interested in?
Hmm.
And then you can have the conversation to see, does the behavior that you both want to achieve align with each other, or do you have an understanding of it versus the like, ah, they're lazy.
Yeah.
Like no, they're motivated to not move
Yeah.
in the way that you want them to move.
They're motivated to stay on the couch.
Right. Right. So then it starts like, oh, they're not disciplined, they're not motivated. Like, no, like let's pause, take a
Hmm.
step back and just like, what are they motivated in? If they're
Hmm.
just sitting on the couch all day, they are motivated to sit on that couch. What created the interest in them sitting on the couch? Are they going through a hard season? Are they going through a breakup? Are they going through rejection? Are they in a slump? Like, what's the interest that made them disciplined to sitting on the couch?
Hmm.
And then how do we get into that loop and start to change it into what we would say more of a positive feedback loop versus one that's not serving the goal?
Right. Is that the start of your rant, or are you gonna, is this the tee up for the rant?
No, I didn't even like tee it up well, like whatsoever.
Oh,
But it's more of this conversation of I really think it goes into four categories, and
okay.
I think it can be more than four categories. So I'm just going to say the four that I've been pondering
Sure.
and meditating on. But the heart of this is that, and like Mel Robbins, I don't know the context in which she said this, right?
Hmm.
Because it's always like it's a snippet, but there's probably a whole conversation around it that explains it more. So definitely not like singling out Mel Robbins. I'm just gonna say like as a whole,
Hmm.
we look up to people that are thought leaders. But what ends up happening is that the thought leaders are listening to other thought leaders. And again, I'm not saying this is what Mel Robbins is doing,
Just in
but
general.
just in general.
Yeah.
Like a thought leader hears another thought leader say something, and because they trust that thought leader, they don't take the step back to think about it. They just accept it
Hmm.
as being truth. So somewhere around the line, someone said, motivation is garbage. You don't need motivation. You need discipline. And
Hmm.
all the other thought leaders said, that's the truth. And no one took a step back and said, well, what if we need both? And they're meant to serve each other. And that in doing that, we can have a better outcome. Right. So we have thought leaders and we have thought followers. And at some point in your life, you're going to be both,
Hmm.
right? You're going to have thoughts that you're following because you should have a mentor, but then you're going to be a thought leader and someone that you're a mentor to. So, like any thought leader has to be a thought follower at some point or to some level. So those are the two categories, thought leader, thought follower. But then we have the third one, which is the structured thinker,
Mm.
the policy follower. Here are the steps to have this conversation on the phone with this customer. You have to follow these steps no matter the circumstance. Got it, boss. I will be a structured thinker. I will do this and I will never go off course.
They're yes
They're
people.
yes people. They're the bobblehead quarterback that John Gruden talks about.
Yes.
Yep. Uh-huh. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Structured. Got it. Got it. Got it. But they're not able to think past the policy.
Hmm.
They're able to think about this is the policy, but they're not able to think outside of that policy.
Hmm.
So then the fourth category is the non-ordered chaos thinker.
Oof.
The they don't actually think, they just act on emotion.
Mm.
The sunscreen's on fire. Don't put it on the skin.
Referring to the
Like,
podcast of last month.
yeah, like that's like the non-ordered chaos of like, yeah, no, that's an emotion that you're coming from. And if you took the time to think on it,
Yeah.
it'd be a more nuanced conversation. So I think when we see these things that are getting passed from like thought leaders, it's like, is it really thought leadership or is it thought following from another thought leader? And again, at some point, everyone's going to be in that. Like, if you're a thought leader, like you're also a thought follower. If you're a thought follower, you can be a thought leader.
Hmm.
But like, even from a thought leader, like, wow, that's an important thought. But like, I feel like I'm going to sound like an old man, but I feel like we're losing the ability to critically think
Yeah.
about things that come up because we immediately turn to someone that we think has the answer, or we turn to Chat GPT and
Hmm.
trust that as a truth instead of just taking a step back and just saying like, hey, let me think through this first, which then allows me to ask a better question on the subject, which then allows me to have a better conversation, which then will lead to better thought formation.
Hmm. Do you think that those four categories, like one evolves into the next? Because as you were explaining them, I was thinking of a book I read recently, and it's by this thought leader. And as I'm going through it, I'm realizing the amount of references this person would use towards other thought leaders. And I
Mhm.
remember you asking, "Hey, as you're reading this book, has there been any like original thought, or is it just almost like a copy and paste of all these other thoughts that have been put together?" And I think it was a lot more copy paste than it was like the original thought. But I thought it was cool that this person wrote the book as a thought leader, but also a thought follower in a way in which they communicated that they know that some of this is from other people. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, like I'm reading this book from this person, kind of pondering, some of these thoughts are actually incongruent with other thoughts that this person communicated throughout the book, which I thought was interesting. And I think it just lacked completion
Mm.
in some of it. But then as you're explaining the other two categories as well, I'm like, gosh, I remember in my teenage years and early young adult years, like I was a chaos thinker. Like I operated from emotion. Um, but I also feel like I didn't know any better and I didn't have the maturity or the really it came down to self-awareness. Like I did not have the self-awareness that I could pause,
Mm.
have some self-agency in making decisions and how I speak and how I respond versus react and things like that. But then I personally feel like I evolved from that into a yes person,
Mm.
where I just turned into like, I'm a structured thinker, and I almost identified as that of like, that is where I'm staying. I'm
Yeah.
thinking that way, like, yes, policy, yes, structure, and that's what matters the most. Almost like that was going to fix the chaos, and
Yeah.
maybe it did, but hopefully it's bridged me more into a thought follower and eventually a thought leader in other ways. And so I use myself as an example, but do you think that it always evolves like that, or do you think it can evolve in other directions, or it can go from, one to three
Yeah.
to back to two to one to two to four to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a hierarchy or progressive overload
Sure.
sort of sense. I think that uh, people can fluctuate between categories at different seasons in in their lives, depending on environment, depending on the leadership that they're under,
Mm.
where they're gaining it. Because again, I do think we all have to start as a thought follower to learn, and then we get to evolve into either a leader or a structured thinker, or just go chaos. Like
Yeah.
that's where I'm going to go. But and people can stay in a particular category, and there can be overlap
Hmm.
between them. I think it comes to the heart of it, and I will say that it is okay to copy and paste other thought leaders, given that they're getting the credit for that thought,
Yeah.
and that it's complete and deserves the copy and paste.
Mm.
And I think there are a lot of thought leaders out there that have a lot of like really, really great one-liners that have been thought through very thoroughly
Hmm.
and like serve very well, that it's like, yeah, you can try to make that original, but like that's really good.
Right,
Like,
and maybe you're communicating it a tad different, but like the original's classic.
right. And it's like, no, that deserves to be copy and pasted, giving credit to that thought leader, because how incredible it was. And as
Hmm.
much as I ponder it, I cannot say it better or more impactfully, because they knocked it out of the park.
Right.
And that is a good time. And like, gosh, in our book, Hope Not Nope, like, yeah, there's stuff from other thought leaders that are in there, because I'm like, yeah, you can't change that.
Yeah.
Like, that is, wow, like, that is so good. But it's taking that step back and making sure like it's congruent
Hmm.
to what the thought is that you're trying to get across with your particular work. And when we just start following a bunch of thought leaders, but don't see like how much does that's a good line, but does it align with the hypothesis or thought that I'm trying to deliver,
Mm.
is where it gets messy, because now it doesn't align with it. It gets kind of confusing. It's like, yeah, those are a lot of good lines and I respect that person, but like, does this fit with the work that you're putting out there? And I'll say from like working on my own book and continuing to write, is that you're operating at a place of what feels kind of safe
Mm.
and what feels risky. And I think when you're starting off, you operate more from a place of wanting to be safe versus like taking that risk,
Mm.
because there's fear of rejection, like all the nopes that we've talked about that you have to work through and deconstruct in it. And when you put out original thoughts or authentic work, you feel like you're not putting your work up
Mm.
for rejection, you're putting yourself up
Yeah.
for that. So you have to be very comfortable in your own skin and certain of like who you are in order to get into very original thought work
Hmm.
that you're sharing with the world.
Hmm. Yeah, and I know that like in a book I read, the person had said any thought that you have is original because you're communicating it in a different way.
Hmm.
And I think that there is like some validity in that, but at the same time, that's where it can become kind of gray
Yeah.
as well because it's an original thought in the sense of the way that you're communicating it, but it was sparked from a thought that might already have been complete,
Mm,
you know? And
yeah.
so I don't know. I love this dialogue because
Mm,
I think it's food for thought and it's just like you can really ponder and sit with and part of it is yes like what you're striving to communicate and get out there, but I think part of it is just like what are your values and belief systems
mhm.
and what language supports those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's also the like thought leader, thought follower of, I really respect the person and their journey. And this quote really fits well with that. And although I might have my own experiences that I'm willing to share, like this one is very powerful given that they were willing to share it. And it's almost honoring that thought leader's legacy,
Mm-hmm.
which is important to be able to do that. So I do think there's a lot of overlap in it. I think we've just gotten very comfortable of seeing that a lot of the thought leaders are saying a thing and then all of them are saying that same thing without pondering it
Mm,
and questioning, does it fit into the story that they're trying to tell?
right. Let me ask this question. Do you think that all thought leaders are motivators?
Ooh.
Or do you think they're more disciplinarians? What would be the word for that?
Disciplinaries.
Disciplinaries. Like are the best thought leaders more about motivating or more about discipline?
So from where I'm sitting, the best are going to be the ones that are the and.
Oh, because we were talking about not being versus.
Right.
Fair.
Yeah, so I don't think it's versus because
Got me.
it's not complete, you know. If
Yeah,
you had two speakers and one was talking on motivation, one was discipline, great, complete, because you're getting both of those in the same session.
sure.
But I do think the best thought leaders are they're motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And if they weren't motivating, you wouldn't listen to them.
That's
You know
fair.
what I mean? Like who's going to turn on a podcast to listen to someone that's not motivating them to
Yeah.
want to make a change or have self-agency or to do something?
Mm-hmm.
It's like yeah, I don't want to listen to 20 minutes of being bored.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fire me up a little bit.
Fire me
Like,
up.
let's go. But in there, like, okay, you're fired up, but are there actionables? Are there things that you can think about? Are there things that you can do? And we see like the best podcasts are the ones that give you those actionables,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's thought, whether it's an action, whether it's a framework, like they provide value. Here's the motivation, but then here's the value that you
Mm-hmm.
can then become disciplined with. So
Right.
I think it's and.
And
Hmm.
well, great answer to that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking in my own life, people who have been very motivating, um, like maybe they're a thought leader that's very motivating, but then they don't give you those actionable
Hmm.
things. So I don't think every thought leader is going to be both, but I think the best thought leaders are both.
Yeah. Do you walk away saying, wow, that person, like, they got it? Or do you walk away saying, like, wow, that person's got it and they gave some of that to me?
Right. Yeah, because it's like, wow, that can be a very emotional experience. And like maybe I feel it for like a day, but did I take actionables away
Hmm.
to change my life for the better?
Right.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Cool.
Uh,
Do you have a hope story?
yes. So it's a quick hope story. It's just kind of funny of just the um, interest in capacity for a behavior.
Mm,
And a lot of times we see something new and we can shade away from it, or we see something that's new and we go, oh, this will be fun. Let me try it.
mm,
Right. So there's the motivation, and then you try it and you're interested in it. Then it's the discipline of how much are you willing to keep practicing that thing?
mm,
How much capacity do you have to keep practicing that thing? How are you going to allow that to form you? So motivation and discipline. So if you listen before, you know that in our neighborhood, it's very refreshing. You know, like young kids that are just like always outside wanting to play,
yeah.
and they've been coming over to the basketball court and playing, and it's been so cool watching the one who doesn't have a basketball background, but how much he's practiced through the summer to improve
Yeah.
and get better. And he's always working to get better. And it's just so cool to see that he was motivated to do it, but he's been disciplined in his practice
Hmm.
and continues to be motivated and disciplined. But the other day I was sitting at the computer doing some work and I peek out the window and I see these two that are always playing basketball in our yard um, in rollerblades.
Love that.
And I didn't notice the rollerblades first. I noticed that one of them was laying in his driveway face down, to which I was like a little concerned of like, okay, check the surroundings. Do we need to go intervene because he's laying on his face on the pavement in the middle of the summer? Like, what's going on? And I'm looking and I'm like, oh gosh, he has rollerblades on and hasn't been on rollerblades before, and their driveway has a little bit of a slope going uphill and he's just trying to rollerblade back to his garage and just eating it over and over and over again and trying all these different methods to try to get it. And then I see his buddy come down the driveway in roller skates, not blades, in a squat, but can only go like 2 feet and then has to stop and
Yeah.
catch himself. So he's going down to rescue his buddy. And I'm like, how's he going to rescue him?
Yeah.
He can't skate either. Like now they're both going to be stuck here. So it's funny watching them problem solve. So they end up going off the driveway into the grass and then walked up the grass and then took off the rollerblades and roller skates. It was like, yeah, you could have taken them off in the driveway and then
Right.
done that, but it was just so funny watching the process. But then a day later, they come over, they knock on the door, and they're like, "Hey, can we go play basketball?" I said, "Absolutely, but there's one condition: you have to play in your rollerblades and roller skates." And they're like, "Okay." I'm like, "No, no, I'm just kidding. I just saw you guys the other day, and it was so cool seeing that you're just like you love playing basketball, but you're also trying different things
Right.
and learning different ways to move and just enjoying it. Like they were never mad at the rollerblades, throwing a fit. They were laughing because he couldn't stand up and they couldn't get back up to the driveway. So
Right. If
yeah,
that doesn't bring you joy, I don't know what will.
yeah,
Like two little like preteens
yeah,
trying to rollerblade and it's
right.
awesome.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. So thank you for listening and thank you for submitting that question. Have a great week and remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.